Alrighty, folks, welcome to our Week 6 college football free pick video for the 2024 season. Of course, my name is Brock Page. I've been dishing out free sports picks on YouTube since 2016. And if you want to see which one of these free plays on this video that I actually like the best, you may want to think about signing up for my college football tier membership package. You'll get access to 3 premium college football selections each and every week for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you'll also get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame, absolutely free. They're going to be included with your membership. And we're currently hitting at 61%. Our last 24 college football tier package plays in that package. And with that, folks, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to start off with Texas State traveling to Troy, 7 o'clock Thursday night. Texas State, is minus 14 away from home. Total's 58. Texas State 2-2 on the year, 1-3 against the number. Troy 1-4 on the year, 2-3 against the spread. We did see a 1-point move toward Troy since yesterday. Opened at 15 down to 14. That in mind, though, the Trojans are not playing some very good football at the moment. They've lost 4 or 5 to start the year, 102nd in yards allowed per pass. 102nd in yards allowed per play. And, Troy's forced fewer turnovers than most squads in college football. They're also in the bottom 10 in sacks. Of course, they're facing a Texas State team on the other side of things. They're in the top 25 in point production, having no problems getting on the scoreboard, and they like to get started early. They're 4th in the country in first quarter scoring, and a lot of that has to do with the passing game. They're 11th in the nation in completed passes per contest. Now, total-wise, the Bobcats saw all 4 of their contests this season get over the line. Troy saw overs against the likes of Iowa and Nevada. Give me Texas State minus 14, over 58. Next matchup, Sam Houston State, UTEP, 9 o'clock Thursday night. Sam Houston's 10.5, totals 50 and a hook. Sam Houston, 4-1 straight up, 4-1 against the spread. UTEP winless on the year through 4 games. Only 1 covered during that time frame. UTEP's struggled a bit moving the football. They're 111th in yards per game, just 2.8 yards per carry on the ground. And, of course, as an offensive unit, they're averaging only 14 points a game. They're in the bottom 10 in the country in scoring. They're facing a Sam Houston secondary who's pretty much kept everything in front of them. They're 17th in yards per completion, 16th in yards per attempt. Meanwhile, on the offensive side of things, they've scored 31 points or more in all of their games this year besides 1. Now, total-wise, the Bearcats are 3-2 to the under for the year. UTEP saw all of their games stay under the line themselves. Give me Sam Houston minus 10.5. Under 50 and a hook. Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State, 7 o'clock Friday night. Jacksonville State, 14, total 48 and a half. Jayville State's 1-3 straight up, 1-3 against the number. Meanwhile, Kennesaw, 0-4 on the year, just 1 covered during that span. And, what can I say? Kennesaw State scored 16 points or less in all of their games this season. This is a program who stepped up, and they're just completely outclassed. Offensively, they're just completely inept. Bottom 5 in yards per game, bottom 10 in quarterback rating. We're looking at a school who's averaging just 12 points a game going into week 6. And they're facing a Jacksonville State team who's, kind of starting to hit their stride here a bit offensively, looking a little bit more like what we thought they would, in the earlier weeks. But, hey, Gamecocks, 78 points in the past 2 games for them. And when it comes to moving the chains, they're doing a nice job airing it out. The Gamecocks are 30th in yards per completion. Big chunk plays. Now, total-wise, Jacksonville State's 3-1 to the over in their last 4. Give me JSU minus 14, over 48.5. Next game, Houston, TCU, 7:30 Friday night. TCU's minus 16, totals 49. TCU's 3-2 on the year, 1-4 against the number. Houston 1-4 straight up, 2-3 against the spread. Houston's coming off back-to-back weeks where they were shut out. I mean, this is looking really bleak for them. Offense having some real tough times. They're throwing for just $155 a game through the air. And needless to say, they're almost dead last in the nation in points. And they're facing a TCU defense who I think is a bit misunderstood. I know that sounds kind of weird, but, you know, I realize they give up a bunch of points, but you, like, can't throw on the guys. You know, they played decent, you know, in that secondary. They're limiting their opponents to just 51% passing. And on the offensive end, they've got little problems moving the football. They're first in the country in completions per game. They're actually throwing it for 365. 365 a game through the air. So this is a team who likes to air it out. They can throw. Now, total-wise, I don't think the Cougs are going to be able to do enough offensively to help put this one over. You know, no real surprise. All 5 of Houston's games this year all stayed under the, you know, total. Like I said, having a rough go of things offensively. Give me TCU minus 16, under 49. Kind of a tight window there, but I think, you know, I think that's the play. All right, next matchup, little Big Ten. Michigan State, Oregon, 9 o'clock Friday night. Oregon's minus 24, totals 52. The Ducks are undefeated, but just 1-3 against the number. Sparty 3-2 straight up, but 2-3 against the number themselves. Now, Michigan State did lose their last 2 straight. 13 points a game they averaged in those losses. And they're facing an Oregon defense who's 6th in the country in yards allowed per throw. Great secondary, limiting their opponents to just 51% passing. This is a team who's beaten the likes of UCLA, Oregon State, and Boise already. And when it comes to offensive production, well, they looked great in all 3 of those victories I just mentioned. Oregon's completing 81% of their throws. That's best in the country in that category. They're also a top 10 point producing team in the fourth quarter. They can really put it on you late. Sparty is 4-1 to the under this year. Oregon with unders against UCLA and Idaho. So although I think Oregon's going to have little problems moving the sticks, I think this one should stay under. Give me Oregon minus 24, under 52. Next matchup, Syracuse, UNLV, 9 o'clock Friday night. UNLV's minus 6.5, total 60. And, you know, the Rebels, you know, they didn't miss a beat after their quarterback decided to redshirt. They put up 59 on Fresno State Saturday, improves their record to 4-0. And in those 4 victories, the Rebels covered the number in all of those games. This has been a great team to bet on. Now, Syracuse on the other side, 3-1 straight up on the season, but just 1-3 against the point spread. We did see a 2.5-point move toward the Rebels in this one already. It opened at 4 and now 6.5. I do have some concerns about the Rebels, though. I feel like they can be a bit one-dimensional here. You know, they run the shit out of the ball, but they're completing only 9 throws a game. And to be fair, you know, they've beaten up on the likes of Fresno State, Utah Tech, and Houston. And they're facing a talented Syracuse team who kind of loves to sling it. 3rd in the country in passing yards, 2nd in completions. Syracuse did see an over against Ohio. UNLV, 2 out of their last 3 got over. Give me Syracuse plus 6.5, over 60. All right, next matchup. Getting into some Saturday football here. SMU, Louisville, 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Louisville's minus 7, totals 57. The Cardinals are 3-1 straight up, 3-1 against the number. SMU 4-1 on the year, 3-2 against the point spread. And even though the Mustangs are scoring a bunch of points, I wouldn't say they're overly prolific throwing the football. They're 114th in passing, bottom 10 in completions, and, they're facing a tough Louisville defense. Don't sell these guys short. They're in the top 20 in defensive yards per game. Of course, on the offensive end, well, the Cards are averaging over 7.5 yards per play from scrimmage. 42 points a game they're averaging. This is a good football team. Both schools 3-1 to the over in their last 4 respectively. Give me Louisville -7 over 57. All right, next matchup, Purdue, Wisconsin, 12 o'clock East. Wisconsin is laying 13 at home, totals 47. Wisconsin 2-2 straight up, 0-4 against the number, yet to cover a point spread. Meanwhile, Purdue 1-3 on the season, 1-3 against the point spread. Two very poor covering teams at the moment. We did see a 0.5 point move toward Wisconsin here, opened at 12.5. Not a fun game to pick here. I got to be honest with you. Both squads, with some challenges. I think the Boilermakers should be able to keep this one close here. Wisconsin, they haven't covered a number yet, and they're laying 13. That's a tough number to cover for a bad covering team. Once again, Boilermakers probably should be able to keep this one close here. They've shown, the ability to run the football a little bit. They're averaging over 5.1 yards per rush, and they are facing a Wisconsin team who's struggled a bit moving the football themselves. They're 103rd in yards per game, 118th in yards per pass attempt. The Badgers scored just 31 total points in their last 2 games. Like I said, it's an offense that is not clicking at the moment. Give me Purdue +13, keeping that one close, under 47. Next game, little ACC action. Boston College, Virginia, 12 o'clock Eastern start. Virginia's -3.5, totals 50 and a hook. Virginia 3-1 straight up, 3-1 against the point spread. BC 4-1 straight up, 3-2 against the number. Boston College is scoring 30 points a game, top 20 in quarterback rating, and they're facing a Virginia defense who they definitely have some holes in that secondary. They're 116th in passing defense, 109th in yards allowed per completion. 2 out of the Cavaliers' last 3 games did get over the number. Give me Boston College +3.5, over 50 and a hook. Next matchup, not sure if it's on our, oh yeah, look at that, right at the top there. Some more ACC action. Wake Forest, NC State, 12 o'clock East. NC State's -5, totals 55.5. 0.5 point move toward Wake Forest. This one opened 5.5 down to 5. Wake Forest just 1-3 on the year, winless against the point spread. NC State 3-2 on the year, also winless against the point spread. And I'll tell you what, this Wolfpack defense, bit of a bend but don't break scenario. They do allow their fair share of first downs. They're 102nd in yards per play from scrimmage. 5 yards a carry they allow on the ground. So it's not an overly crisp defense, at least not early in the year here. And Wake Forest, on the other side, despite their record, these guys are moving the chains. 310 yards a game they're throwing for, top 10 in the country in passing yards. When it comes to the total, both schools 3-1 to the over in their last 4 respectively. Give me Wake Forest +5, keeping that one close, over 55.5. Next matchup, Pitt, UNC, 12 o'clock East. Pitt's -3 away from home, total 64.5. Now, the undefeated Pitt Panthers are 4-0 against the point spread this year. UNC 0-5 against the number, 3-2 straight up. UNC still looking for their first cover. We did see a 0.5 point move toward Pitt, open 2.5, now 3. And I'll tell you what, both of those UNC losses this year, they came in back-to-back weeks. Their defense has definitely let them down. And, this Tar Heel secondary, they're allowing 15.3 yards per completion. That puts them in the bottom 3 in the nation in that category. And, they're facing a Pitt offense here this weekend who's putting up 49 points a game themselves, 6th in the country in total yards. Give me Pitt -3, over 64.5. All right, next game. SEC, Missouri, Texas A&M, 12 o'clock East. A&M's 1.5, totals 49. 3-point move toward Mizzou in the early going here. This one opened at 4.5, all the way down to 1.5. The Missouri Tigers, 4-0 on the year, 2-2 against the number. Of course, A&M 4-1 straight up, 1-4 against the point spread. I feel like this is a good spot to fade that line move. We're looking at a Missouri team who's putting up numbers against the likes of, Vanderbilt, Boston College, Buffalo, Murray State. Not quite the venues similar to the 12th man. This Aggie defense is allowing just 18 points a game. Marquee wins this year against the likes of Arkansas and Florida. A&M's last 2 straight did stay under the total. Missouri's 3-1 to the under this year themselves. Give me A&M minus 1.5, under 49. All right, next game. Surprise, it's on our big screen. UMass, Northern Illinois, 12 o'clock East. NIU's minus 17.5, totals 44. Northern Illinois, they are 2-2 straight up, 3-1 against the spread. UMass just 1-4 straight up, 2-3 against the number. UMass kind of a tough team to figure out. Like I get they stink. They're giving up a ton of points, but they're really not allowing a whole lot of yards. It's actually their offense that's really putting them in bad spots. The Minutemen are allowing only 187 yards a game through the air, 54% completion percentage on defense as well. And their secondary is actually 11th in the nation right now in completions allowed per game. Now, they're facing a Northern Illinois team who doesn't throw it great themselves. They're completing only 57% of their throws, and they're also coming fresh off back-to-back losses against the likes of NC State and Buffalo. Certainly a bad way to follow up that historic upset win over Notre Dame. I think the Huskies are completely overvalued in this spot here. This is a pretty big number. At Northern Illinois, they saw their last 3 straight stay under the total. UMass 2-1 to the under in their last 3 themselves. Give me UMass plus 17.5, under 44. All right, next matchup, UCLA, Penn State, 12 o'clock East. Penn State is laying 29 points, totals 44.5. Penn State 4-0 straight up, 2-2 against the point spread. UCLA 1-3 on the year, 2-2 against the number. But I'll tell you what, don't let that straight up record fool you for UCLA. The Bruins have gone through the ringer. They've already had Oregon, LSU, and Indiana all in consecutive weeks. And, despite allowing a considerable amount of points, the Bruins still have a top 25 rushing defense, and they're going to need it against the Nittany Lions. That's what Penn State does. They run the football. They got that 2-headed monster in the backfield. They're not going to shy away from it. Even if you're good against the run, they're going to keep running it. But if you can control that line of scrimmage, I don't think Drew Aller's going to win you many games by himself. I don't know if this is a guy that's going to go out there and win you a game throwing it 50 times. They're throwing only 22 times a game. They're 103rd in the country in completions. And, if you're merely looking at stats, just keep in mind Penn State was beaten up on Kent State and Bowling Green in back-to-back weeks earlier in the year. Now, total-wise, both teams 3-1 to the under through 4 contests. This is a huge number. Conference game. They got to keep it close. Give me UCLA plus 29, under 44.5. All right, next ball game. Navy, Air Force, 12 o'clock East. Navy is minus, I feel like I saw it. There it is. Navy's minus 8.5, totals 35. Navy 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the spread. Air Force 1-3 straight up. No covers yet for them. We did see a 0.5 point move toward Air Force. Number opened at 9, down to 8.5. Now the Falcons are having all kinds of problems on offense. They're in the bottom 5 in the nation in scoring, bottom 5 in yards per game. And Navy, they've allowed just 21 points or less in 3 out of their 4 contests this year. Their stats kind of got jacked up from that Memphis game, which they actually won, by the way. But I tell you, the strength of this, Navy program has been their offense. They're going to run the ball. 7.8 yards per play from scrimmage. They're averaging top 25 in total yards per game. When it comes to the number, the midshipmen saw all of their games this year go over the total. Air Force had an over last week against Wyoming, despite their crappy offense. Give me Navy minus 8.5 over 35. Next matchup, Army, Tulsa, 12 o'clock East. Army's minus 10, totals 50.5. Army 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the point spread. Tulsa 2-3 overall, 2-3 against the number. And I'll tell you, despite allowing a bunch of points, most of Tulsa's struggles on D, it's been in their secondary. They're not going to have to worry about that against Army because Army's going to run it about 60 times a game. The Black Knights, they've thrown only a handful of times this year, and I'm a bit concerned that, they've been rather untested. They've beaten up on the likes of Temple, Rice, Florida Atlantic, Lehigh. 10 points is a bunch, especially on the road. Plus, Tulsa's defense, they've done a nice job slowing down the run game. They're actually 30th in yards allowed per rush. Now, 3 out of Tulsa's last 4 did stay under the total. Army saw an under against FAU. Give me Tulsa plus 10, under 50.5. All right, next matchup. It is a 1 o'clock start, not on our big screen, but it's Tulane, UAB, 1 o'clock East. Tulane's minus 14 away from home, totals 55. Tulane 3-2 straight up, 4-1 against the point spread. UAB 1-3 record, 2-2 against the number. And of course, the Blazers are on a 3-game skid. Defense looked terrible during that stretch. UAB is giving up 205 yards a game on the ground. And, Tulane, they're gaining nearly 5 yards per play when they run it. But I tell you, when these guys have the football, they can also sling it. They like to throw it. They're in the top 15 in yards per pass attempt. Now, the Green Wave has scored 86 total points in the past 2 weeks. Tulane's 3-1 to the over in their last 4. UAB saw their last 2 straight get over the total themselves. Give me Tulane minus 14 over 55. Next ball game, little Maction. Although I thought the term Maction only applied to like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, like that midweek Maction, but I guess it's all Maction. But anyway, talking about the MAC Conference, Western Michigan away from home at Ball State, 2 o'clock East. Western Michigan's minus 9 on the road, totals 56.5. 1.5 point move toward Western Michigan, opened 7.5 up to 9. And I'll tell you, neither school overly competitive against stiffer competition. These guys have both been getting, kind of clobbered by some bigger schools over the past few weeks. So I think a lot of the stats you look up are probably disparaging. I'm not sure the defenses are going to be that bad against each other. I also think this is kind of too many points in a conference game away from home. Ball State should be able to cover here. Give me Ball State plus 9, under 56.5. All right, next game, Big Ten, Indiana at Northwestern, 3:30 p.m. East. Indiana's minus 13.5, totals 42. 1 point move toward the Hoosiers in this one, open 12.5. Hoosiers 5-0 on the year, 4-1 against the number. Northwestern 2-2 on the season, 1-3 against the number. I think the Wildcats are going to have a tough time moving the football. Bottom 5 in quarterback rating, 121st in total yards. They're facing a tough Indy defense who allows only 13 points a game, and they do rank in the top 10 in sacks. Excellent pass rush. But you know what? It ain't just defense either. The Hoosiers are throwing the football a little bit. They're getting over 300 yards a game passing. Top 10 in the country in completion percentage. Now, Indy did see their game against FIU stay under the total. Meanwhile, Northwestern 3-1 to the under through 4 games themselves. Give me Indiana minus 13.5, under 42. Indy should move it, but I'm not really expecting a barn burner in that one. All right, next game, Appalachian State, Marshall, 3:30 Eastern start time. Marshall's minus 2.5, totals 59. Half a point move toward the herd. Marshall's 2-2 straight up. Perfect against the point spread, though. Meanwhile, Appy State's 2-2 themselves, but 1-3 against the number. Hey, listen, Appy State's having issues on defense. They're allowing over 6.9 yards of play from scrimmage, and their biggest problem has been slowing down the ground game. The Mountaineers allow over 213 yards a game rushing, and they're facing a Marshall squad who actually totes it for 5.4 yards a carry themselves. It's also a disciplined bunch on offense. You don't really hear a lot of folks talking about penalties, but I respect it. They're averaging just 4.2 penalties a game on offense. That's 13th in the nation in that stat. So really limiting those drive stoppers, jumping off sides, holding, all that jazz. Now, total-wise, both schools 3-1 to the under in their last 4. Give me Marshall minus 2.5, under 59. Next matchup, Ole Miss, South Carolina, 3:30 p.m. East. Ole Miss is minus 9, totals 53.5. Now, Ole Miss is 4-1 straight up, 4-1 against the spread. South Carolina, 3-1 straight up, 3-1 against the number themselves. And I'll tell you, this is a pretty good amount of points to be catching in a conference game at home. Tough spot for Ole Miss to bounce back. They lost to a Kentucky team who was actually trashed by South Carolina 31-6 earlier this year. The Gamecocks play a real physical brand of defense, 13th in the country in yards allowed per play from scrimmage, and they're also limiting their competition to just 160 yards a game passing. Secondary, getting the job done. And, we kind of saw that on Saturday. The Rebels, they were shut down by a physical defense. They were held to just 17 points in that loss to Kentucky. Now, total-wise, Ole Miss 4-1 to the under in their last 5. South Carolina, they saw unders against the likes of Kentucky and Old Dominion. Give me South Carolina plus 9, under 53.5. Next game, some more action. Bowling Green, Akron, 3:30 East. Bowling Green's minus 15, totals 52. 1 point move toward Bowling Green. Open 14, up to 15. BG's 1-3 on the year, but 3-1 against the number. Akron 1-4 straight up, 1-4 against the spread. And, Akron has really been getting pounded with this schedule. They've played some big schools, and they didn't have a prayer, did not have a chance. And they're facing a Bowling Green team who actually covered against the likes of A&M and Penn State. They played those schools to one-score games, by the way. They were leading Penn State at halftime. And when it comes to defensive play, the Falcons do get a lot of pressure on these big school quarterbacks. They've defended the pass quite well. They're actually allowing just $185 a game through the air. They're currently 16th in the country in completions allowed. Now, total-wise, I'm not sure either program has the firepower to help put this one over the total. I'm going to take Bowling Green minus 15, under 52. All right, next matchup, East Carolina, Charlotte, 3:30 p.m. East. ECU's minus 9, totals 46. A 1 point move toward East Carolina, opened as the 8-point favorite. ECU's 3-2 straight up, 3-2 against the spread. Charlotte 2-3 on the year, 2-3 against the number. Charlotte's been playing some bigger schools, and they've had some success winning some small battles. They covered against the likes of North Carolina, and they did have an outright win against Rice. They're facing an ECU squad who's a little bit sloppy on the offensive end. They're throwing more interceptions per game than any other school. They've also fumbled a handful of times, and they're 102nd in sacks allowed. Now, East Carolina saw their game against Liberty fly about 5 points above the posted total. 3 out of Charlotte's last 4 got over the line. Give me Charlotte plus 9, over 46. Next matchup, Iowa, Ohio State, 3:30 p.m. East. OSU is 20.5, totals 44. Buckeyes 4-0 straight up, 2-2 against the number. Iowa 3-1 straight up, 2-2 against the spread. And Iowa's, going to have some problems moving the football. Just 147 yards a game through the air. That just ain't enough. The Hawkeyes are a bottom 10 passing school, bottom 5 in yards per completion. This is a program who commits to bad offense year in and year out. They say, hey, we're going to play shitty offense year in and year out and just try to win games 10-7. Oh, man, you got to start recruiting some guys, or not even recruiting. You got to get through the portal and get some offensive weapons or something. But anyway, they're facing a Buckeye D. They're allowing just 196 total yards a game, 1.8 yards per rush. And when it comes to offensive production, Ohio State could potentially put this one over the total themselves. They're 7th in total yards, 4th in yards per play. I get Iowa has a good defense, but they're going to be in some real bad spots field position-wise. Give me Ohio State minus 20.5 over 44. All right, next matchup. Not going to be an easy one for the Bulldogs. Auburn, Georgia, 3:30 p.m. East. Georgia's minus 24, totals 54.5. Half a point fade of the Bulldogs. Probably going to see some more overreaction to that Bama loss. And, if you're going to fire in this game, I got to imagine you can get this at a better number by Saturday if you're laying the points with Georgia. Georgia's 3-1 straight up, 1-3 against the number. Auburn 2-3 straight up, 2-3 against the point spread. But listen, I know Auburn suffered that heartbreaker. I watched that entire game Saturday, and man, change the channel, change it back, and they were up, 11? And then they were losing. It happened quick. But the Tigers do have the ability to be explosive on offense. They have that ability. They're 8th in yards per play, 3rd in yards per completion. So they can get you a home run ball or a home run rush. This is a team who can really get a good chunk play. And this Georgia defense, they're 112th in defensive completion percentage. Opposing quarterbacks having a good, time completing passes against them. Now, when it comes to the number, the Bulldogs failed to cover in their last 3 straight. They have not been great against the number here. When it comes to the total, the total flew 25 points above the posted number for Georgia this past Saturday. Meanwhile, Auburn saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the total themselves. Give me Auburn plus 24 over 54.5. All right, next game, Temple, UConn, 3:30 Eastern start. UConn, they are minus 16.5, laying a bunch of points. Total's 51. 2-point move toward the Huskies as well. They opened 14.5 up to 16 and a hook. UConn 3-2 straight up, 4-1 against the point spread. Temple 1-4 on the year, 2-3 against the number. The Owls are having all kinds of issues on offense. Bottom 10 in sacks allowed, turns the ball over a bunch. One of the worst in the nation in turnovers. When it comes to defensive play, the Owls they ain't any good in that area either. They're giving up 38 points a game. And that's good news for UConn fans because these guys certainly like the ground and pound. They are committed to the run. They've done it well over the past few years. I know that their record hasn't indicated greatness, but it's a team who's committed to the run. They've done it well, and they're doing it well this year. The Huskies are actually 12th in the nation in rushing. It's 245 yards a game they're gaining on the ground. So even though they don't throw it a whole lot, listen, when they do, they make it count. This is kind of a quirky stat here. UConn's 17th in the nation in yards per completion. So they're not going to throw it on you 40 times a game, but man, they're going to catch you with your pants down and really draw up a good one. Now, one more thing to add when it comes to protecting the quarterback, this Husky O-line's done a great job at doing that. They've allowed just 4 sacks on the season. They're in the top 10 in the country in that particular category. I get they're a run-heavy offense, but still, you got to note that they've done a good job protecting this guy. Now, total-wise, All of UConn's games went over the number. Temple saw 3 out of their last 4 get over the line themselves. Give me UConn minus 16.5 over 51. All right, next matchup, some more MACtion. Miami, Ohio, taking on Toledo. 3:30 Eastern start. Toledo's minus 6.5, totals 44. Half a point move toward Miami in this one. Number did open at 7. Miami's just 1-3 straight up, 1-3 against the spread. Toledo 3-1 on the year, 2-2 against the number. I do like Toledo at home here. Pretty good number for us. And I just think they're better on both sides of the football. The Rockets have beaten the likes of Mississippi State, UMass, and Duquesne this year. And on defense, they've been tough against the run. And they've also done a nice job getting to the quarterback. They're 17th in the country in sacks, just 2.8 yards they allow per rush. And, that's bad news for Miami, Ohio, because they have all kinds of problems running the football. I believe they are second to last in the country in rushing. They're at least in the bottom 5, but I'm pretty sure they're second to last in rushing. They're 121st in completion percentage. A lot of problems there. I think Toledo rolls here. Give me Toledo minus 6.5, under 44. All right, next game, Virginia Tech, Stanford, 3:30 Eastern start. Virginia Tech's minus 9.5, totals 50. And a big 3-point move toward the Hokies already. 6.5 up to 9.5. Tech's 2-3 on the season, 2-3 against the point spread. Stanford's 2-2 straight up, 2-2 against the number. Of course, Stanford, they had that nice upset over Syracuse a few weeks ago. They covered the number against TCU as well. Some good things happening here. This feels like a pretty big number on the road for the Hokies. They lost their last 2 straight, and they allowed 64 total points. This Hokie D is also 103rd in rush defense, and they do have a tendency to allow big plays. They're allowing 13.8 yards per completed pass. Now, total-wise, Virginia Tech did see their last 3 straight get over the total. 4-1 of the over for the entire year. And Stanford, on the other side, they saw their matchup with TCU get over the total themselves. Give me Stanford plus 9.5 over 50. Next matchup should be a good one. Rutgers, Nebraska, 4 o'clock East. Nebraska's minus 7, totals 41. Saw a 1-point move toward the Cornhuskers, opened at 6. Nebraska's 4-1 straight up, 4-1 against the spread. Rutgers 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the number. And I do think the Scarlet Knights can keep this one close. They're gaining nearly 240 yards a game on the ground. They're a top 15 rushing offense. And they're coming fresh off back-to-back wins against Washington and Virginia Tech in consecutive weeks. And I'll tell you, I'm a little bit concerned about penalties when it comes to Nebraska. I love Matt Rule. He's probably my favorite coach in college football, but penalties are a problem when it comes to Nebraska. These close conference games are where those flags really end up hurting you. They're in the bottom 5 in penalty yards on D. They're actually getting flagged for nearly 100 yards a game on defense. And on the offensive side, not much better. They're getting flagged for 71 yards a game on offense as well. That ranks 104th in the nation. Now, listen, might be a little bit more offense in this one than people think. 2 out of Rutgers' last 3 games got over the total. Nebraska saw their game against Illinois fly 13 points above the posted total. I think this is going to be a really enjoyable game to watch. Give me Rutgers plus 7 over 41. All right, next matchup. Gotta love it. More conference action here. It's that time of year, of course. West Virginia, Oklahoma State, 4 o'clock East. Oklahoma State's minus 4.5, total 65 and a hook. Half a point move toward the Mountaineers in this one away from home. Number opened at 5. Mountaineers are 2-2 straight up, 1-3 against the spread. Oklahoma State 3-2 straight up, 2-3 against the number. But listen, this ain't a great spot for the Cowboys, all right? They're coming off back-to-back losses. Looked really bad on offense in those losses, by the way. Oklahoma State's gaining under 3.6 yards per rush. They're 109th in the country in that category. When it comes to defense, well, they tend to give up a lot of points late. So that back door is going to be open. Plus, they're in the bottom 10 in yards allowed per game. They're giving up over 480 yards per contest. And they're facing a West Virginia squad who's coming fresh off a nice conference win against Kansas. They played Pitt very tough the week before that as well. And the Mountaineers could have some success moving the football. They're averaging 13.8 yards a completion. They've actually scored 32 points or more in their last 3 straight. Now, no real surprise here, folks. All 3 of those games I just mentioned got over the total. Oklahoma State's 3-2 to the over in their last 5. Give me West Virginia plus 4.5, over 65.5 in a fun one. All right, next game. Bama, Vandy, 4:15 East. The Alabama Crimson Tide, minus 23.5 away from home. Totals 56. Bama, 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the number. Vandy, 2-2 straight up, 3-1 against the spread. Vandy's coming off of back-to-back losses. 66 total points allowed during that stretch. When it comes to offensive production, they've been little threat throwing the football. They're actually completing only 13 throws a game on average. And they're facing a Bama defense who definitely likes to blitz. And they definitely like to get to the quarterback. They're 7th in the country in yards per pass attempt. And when it comes to offensive production, the Tide's completing 72% of their throws. Of course, they got arguably the best athlete on the field in the nation. Talking about Milroe, that guy's awesome. Top 5 in quarterback rating. Now, total-wise, the Tide, they always have the capability of putting it over the total themselves. They're 3-1 to the over this year. Vandy's 4-0 to the over. Give me Bama minus 23.5, over 56. All right, Colorado State, Oregon State, 6:30 East. Oregon State, 13.5, total 48. Beavers, 3-1 straight up, 2-2 against the number. Colorado State, 2-2 straight up, 1-3 against the point spread. I don't like the Rams in this spot on the road. 18 points a game they're averaging, bottom 10 in quarterback rating, and they're facing an Oregon State team who actually runs it for 268 a game. They really like to pound it. They're 7th in the country in yards per game on the ground. The Beavs' last 2 straight also got over the total. Give me Oregon State minus 13.5, over 48. Next game, Louisiana, Southern Miss, 7 o'clock East. Louisiana's minus 14, totals 57.5. Now the Cajuns are 3-1 straight up, 2-2 against the number. Southern Miss 1-3 straight up, 1-3 against the point spread. And Southern Miss, they've pretty much played little to no defense this year. They're giving up 34 points a game, bottom 10 in rush defense. And the Cajuns on the other side, well, they actually run it for nearly 200 yards a game. Now, they're also completing nearly 70% of their throws, tossing it well, doing a little bit of both here. Louisiana, they scored 33 points or more in all of their games. Give me the Raging Cajuns, minus 14, over 57.5. Next matchup, James Madison, UL Monroe, 7 o'clock East. JMU's minus 17, totals 49. 2-point move toward the Dukes, opened at 15. JMU 4-0 on the season, 3-1 against the spread. UL Monroe 3-1 straight up, 3-1 against the number. And the Dukes could score a million in this one. They've amassed 133 points in their last 2 games, 9th in the country in yards per pass attempt. And they're facing a UL Monroe team who allowed 51 points to Texas a few weeks ago. Now, offensively, they, just haven't been good enough. Bottom 5 in total yards, bottom 3 in passing. And even though I said the Dukes could score a million, I do actually think this one could stay under the total. 3 out of the Warhawks' last 4 games did fall under the line. Meanwhile, JMU, they saw unders against the likes of Gardner-Webb and Charlotte. Give me James Madison, minus 17, under 49. Next matchup, South Alabama, Arkansas State, 7 o'clock East. South Alabama's minus 3.5, total 62 and a hook. Now, South Alabama, they are 2-3 straight up, 2-3 against the number. Arkansas State, 2-2 straight up, 1-3 against the number themselves. And Arkansas State, they are coming off back-to-back losses, having a tough time slowing down the run this year. They're actually giving up 234 yards a game on the ground. Very unfortunate there. They're going to have to do a better job than that. And no real surprise, they're also 123rd in the country in points allowed. And they're facing a South Alabama team who scores 41 points a game themselves. Very dangerous rushing attack. They're gaining 6.2 yards per rush. That's nearly best in college football. Give me South Alabama minus 3.5 over 62 and a hook. Next game, Utah State, Boise State, 7 o'clock East. Boise's minus 26.5, total 66. Boise, 3-1 straight up, 2-2 against the number. Utah State, 1-3 straight up, 1-3 against the point spread. And the Aggies coming off a disastrous loss to Temple a few weeks ago. They can't stop anything on D. I mean, when you make Temple look like, they're being led by Joe Montana, you got problems. I believe Temple put up like 45 points on them. But anyway, no real surprise. Utah State's in the bottom 10 in points allowed, 123rd in yards allowed. Of course, both of those kind of going hand in hand there. Of course, they're facing a Broncos offense who's leading college football in yards per rush. And Boise scored 34 points or more in all 4 of their games. Actually lost a nail-biter to Oregon this year. That was just a 3-point game. They could have won that one. And Oregon is a great football team, so that would have been it kind of gives you an idea of how good Boise's been playing. Listen, the Broncos are currently averaging 48 points a game, and they lead the country in fourth quarter scoring. Give me Boise minus 26.5 over 66. Next matchup, Old Dominion, Coastal Carolina, 7 o'clock East. Coastal's minus 5, totals 55. The Chanticleers are 3-1 straight up, 2-2 against the point spread. Old Dominion 1-3 straight up, 2-2 against the number. The Monarchs are having all kinds of issues on offense. They're completing only 53% of their throws. They're averaging only 145 yards a game through the air. And they're facing a good Chanticleer secondary who gives up just $184 a game passing. They've also done a nice job getting pressure. They're currently in the top 25 in sacks. Now, 3 out of Coastal's last 4 games did get over the total. Old Dominion saw their last 2 straight get over the total themselves. Give me Coastal Carolina minus 5 over 55. Hello.
Hello.
What do you got, a box?
Mm-hmm. Net for the trampoline.
Oh, a net.
Yep.
Nice. Keep all the kids in so they don't go bouncing out of the trampoline. Smart. All right. Yeah, what did it say? Clemson minus 14 over 47. All right, next matchup, little SEC action. Tennessee away from home taking on Arkansas. That'll be a 7:30 Eastern start. Tennessee's minus 14 away from home, total 60. Tennessee is 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the point spread. They've been doing a nice job covering. Arkansas, 3-2 straight up, 4-1 against the number. Good covering team as well. We actually were able to cash with them last week in one of our college football tier plays. We had them plus 5, and they lost the game, but they covered that number, so good for us. And I think the Razorbacks can do it again. I think they can, keep this one close at home. They've covered against the likes of Texas A&M, Auburn, and Oklahoma State this year. And I just think they're going to test this Tennessee defense. The Razorbacks can move the sticks. They're rushing for 212 a game on the ground, 18th in yards per completion. I definitely think it's a lot of points to lay in a conference game on the road. Total-wise, Tennessee's their game 2 weeks ago with Oklahoma, it actually fell 17 points below the line. In Arkansas, they saw their last 2 straight stay under the total themselves. Give me Arkansas plus 14, under 60. All right, next game, Michigan, Washington, 7:30 Eastern start time. Washington's minus 2.5. Totals 41. I'm sorry, it's funny. I do these videos in like a little studio in the basement. So we have a big screen glass door so I can look straight out. My wife, she's all but 5 foot tall. So she's reaching up with the net. The kid, he's up on the trampoline bouncing around, not helping. Oh, this is a funny sight. I'm sorry, guys. Got a little distracted. We're only 50 minutes into the show. And finally, a lapse of attention. But anyway, this is an important game. Michigan, Washington, 7:30 Eastern start. Washington is minus 2.5. Totals 41. Huskies are 3-2 straight up, 2-3 against the point spread. Michigan 4-1 straight up, 1-4 against the number. But I think Michigan's lack of balance offensively is going to catch up with them in this spot here. They're throwing for just $1.15 a game. I just don't know how you sustain that and beat big schools. I think that's going to really hurt them. They're only averaging 21 throws a game, so they're not even concerned about it. They're really just committed to the ground game. But like I said, big games like this on the road, man, $1.15 a game through the air, that's not going to get the job done. And listen, I just don't think you can get away with that against a team like Washington. They're 12th in the country in yards per game allowed. This is a really good defense, and they certainly make it tough to throw. Like, if you're going to actually throw the football, opposing quarterbacks are completing only 45% of their attempts against them. Washington's allowing only 12 points a game. You know, this is a team who could potentially, like, I realize they lost a couple games already. They went out, they might be able to sneak into that playoff. Their defense is certainly good enough to do it. It's a shame that they lost 2 games. But anyway, give me Washington minus 2.5, under 41. That's going to be a physical game. All right, next matchup, Baylor, Iowa State, 7:30 East. Iowa State, they are minus 14 and a half, totals 46. And we saw a 2-point move toward the Cyclones. Kind of everyone jumping ship off of Baylor. The Bears just 2-3 on the season, 3-2 against the number, though. Meanwhile, Iowa State 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the point spread. But I think the public, I'm trying to spit it out, guys. I think the public could get hurt in this one. The Cyclones, they've been impressive, right? Good numbers. But they've been beaten up on the likes of Houston, Arkansas State, North Dakota, and an Iowa team who can't move the football, right? So it's not an overly impressive resume. And, I know for a fact they haven't been as challenged as Baylor's been. Baylor's really been through the ringer. Games already against the likes of BYU, Colorado, and Utah already this year. And you know what? They've been able to get a few stops. That loss to Colorado, bit of a fluke. That was a Hail Mary. Really reminded me of that Cordell Stewart play, 30 years ago? This is a team that has been able to get a few stops. They're in the top 25 in yards allowed per play, and they're also a top 25 passing defense. And that's even with a game against Colorado, who throws it 70 times a game. Now, 3 out of Baylor's last 5 did stay under the total. Iowa State, they saw unders against the likes of Houston and North Dakota. Give me Baylor plus 14.5, under 46. All right, next matchup. This is another one. Don't sleep on this game. This could be a good one. USC taking on Minnesota, 7:30 Eastern start. USC's minus 9, totals 52. And the Trojans, they are 3-1 straight up, 3-1 against the point spread. Minnesota 2-3 straight up, but 4-1 against the number. Been a pretty good covering team here. And, this is a bit of an unfamiliar spot for USC. I think these schools maybe faced one time in Minnesota ever. So, this is not familiar territory for them. And believe it or not, I don't think USC has the best defense on the field in this one. I think that goes to the Gophers. They're holding their opponents to just 96 yards a game passing. That is obviously the best in the country. And no real surprise here, folks. They are in the top 5 in total yards allowed. I don't think USC steamrolls them here. Should be a nice physical game. You're laying nearly double-digit points on the road in a conference game. That's a tough number to cover. I know USC's good, but that's going to be a challenge. Give me Minnesota +9, under 52. All right, next game, Nevada, San Jose State, 7:30 Eastern start time. San Jose State, they are -7, totals 48. The Spartans are 3-1 straight up. Perfect against the point spread this year, covered in all those games. Nevada 2-3 straight up, 3-2 against the number. Now, I do have concerns about Nevada's offense. They're 102nd in scoring. They're really not a huge threat throwing the football. You know, they're heaving it for just 185 yards a game. And the Spartans, they're limiting opposing quarterbacks to just 51% passing. Now, offensively, they've committed to airing it out. San Jose State's averaging 330 yards a game through the air. That's 8th in the country. If you're not aware of that, you should know that. I mean, you see, I'm not saying you should know it, like you should be aware of that. I'm just saying if you're not aware, that's some good information to have. If you see the Spartans, know they like to sling it. Give me San Jose State -7 over 48. All right, next game. Another one should be good on paper at least. UCF, Florida, 7:45 East. Central Florida, UCF, they are -3 away from home, total 61.5. And we saw a good old-fashioned flip of the line in this one. Florida opened 1.5. Now it's UCF -3. UCF's 3-1 straight up, 3-1 against the point spread. Florida 2-2 straight up, 1-3 against the number. And I'm thinking we're going to have a sloppy one in the swamp. Looks like rain potentially all weekend down there in Florida. But listen, it ain't just UCF that can move the football. The Gators are averaging 7.3 yards per play from scrimmage. They're a top 20 scoring team in the fourth quarter. Don't sleep on them. Back door could be open. They're facing a UCF squad who really doesn't get a whole lot of pressure on the quarterback. They're in the bottom 5 in the nation in sacks. Not a tremendous spot for these guys on the road here. I've got concerns about UCF. Now, total-wise, oddly enough, I don't think the weather's going to have a huge effect on the scoring because UCF is committed to running the football. Lots of overs here for both teams as well. All of UCF's games went over the total this year. Florida 3-1 of the over themselves. Give me the Florida Gators +3 over 61.5. All right, next matchup, Hawaii, San Diego State, 8 o'clock East. San Diego State's -3, totals 46. Half a point move toward the Aztecs. San Diego State 1-3 straight up, 1-3 against the number. Hawaii 2-2 straight up, 2-2 against the point spread. And the Rainbow Warriors, they've been fairly untested. They've played Northern Iowa, Sam Houston State, and Delaware State already. They have 4 total games. 3 of them were against those schools. And, you know, when it comes to moving the football, they're really just not committed to the run at all. There's, hey, we're just going to throw it. They're running it only 24 times a game on average. They're 119th in the nation in rushing yards. And I'll tell you, if you're just going to sit back there and sling it, you might have problems with San Diego State's line up front. These guys are 5th in the country in sacks. I think this is going to be kind of a bad formula, bad recipe here for Hawaii. And, you know, because of that pass rush, they're also 9th in the country in yards allowed per completion. Bad spot for Hawaii just to stand back there and sling it, you know, 60 times a game. You know, it's not great for them. Bad. That is correct, wife. It is terrible, yes. Give me San Diego. See, she made the pick. San Diego State -3, under 46. All right, next game, Duke, Georgia Tech, 8 o'clock East. Georgia Tech is -8, totals 53.5. And we did see a half a point move toward the Blue Devils, opened 8.5. Duke's 5-0 straight up on the year, 3-2 against the point spread. Georgia Tech 3-2 straight up, 3-2 against the number. Now Tech did lose 2 out of their last 3, and they, you know, looked pretty sloppy defensively in those losses. And for some reason, you know, the Yellow Jackets, they just don't get any pressure. They're in the bottom 15 in the nation in sacks. And, that's really not great news for them. Duke likes to throw the football. They're averaging 36 passes a game. And when it comes to defensive play, the Blue Devils, they just keep everything in front of them. They're in the top 3 in the nation in yards allowed per completion, top 10 in sacks. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe this is what they call a trap game. Who knows? Give me Duke +8, under 53.5. All right. Next game, Kansas, Arizona State, 8 o'clock East. ASU is -2.5. Totals 50 and a hook. Arizona State 3-1 straight up, 3-1 against the point spread. Kansas 1-4 straight up, winless against the number. And I tell you, the Jayhawks are getting little help from their passing game. They're completing only 54% of their throws for just $171 per game. And they're facing an opportunistic defense on the other side who really does a nice job slowing down the run. They're in the top 10 in forced fumbles, top 10 in yards allowed per rush. Give me Arizona State -2.5, under 50 and a hook. All right. Next game, Miami Hurricanes taking on Cal, 10:30 Eastern start time. Miami's -11.5, totals 55. And a 1.5 point move toward Cal in this one. Number opened at 13. Cal's 3-1 on the year, 2-2 against the point spread. Miami 5-0 straight up, 3-2 against the number. Now, listen, I think this is a tough spot to be laying double digits away from home. A bit of a long trip, a lot of points to lay. I think this is only the second time Miami's been to Cal Berkeley. It's unfamiliar territory for them. And they're also coming fresh off a contest with Virginia Tech where they failed to cover and they gave up 34 total points. And they're facing a Cal defense who's tough. These guys allow only 12 points a game, leading the country in interceptions. And no real surprise here, opposing quarterbacks are completing only 51% of their throws against them. I think this is a spot where Cal can cover. Give me the Golden Bears +11.5, under 55. And this is our next and final breakdown for the video. Texas Tech, Arizona, 11 o'clock East. Arizona's -6, total 63.5. And a 1 point move toward the Wildcats. Line opened up at 5. The Wildcats are 3-1 straight up, but just 1-3 against the number. Meanwhile, Texas Tech, they're 4-1 straight up, 3-2 against the point spread. And I don't know, guys. Tough game to handicap. I don't really feel 100% confident in this one. I'll just go out there and say right now, as of right now, this isn't a premium selection because this is a tough game to pick. Both schools putting up some real nice wins against some good programs. Arizona just beat Utah, held them to just 10 points. Texas Tech beat Cincinnati and Arizona State in back-to-back weeks. 77 total points they scored. I feel like I like Texas Tech catching points here. Top 15 in yards per game, 42 points per contest they're averaging. And I think Arizona might fall victim to drive stoppers, like I mentioned earlier. That's right, penalties. They commit a bunch of them on offense. They're actually 115th in offensive penalties. That in mind, though, probably should have a fun one here. I think we're going to see some points. Texas Tech 3-0 to the over for the entire season. Give me the Red Raiders +6, over 63.5. And with that, folks, we are going to jump into our quick pick recap. I like Texas State -14, over 58. Sam Houston -10.5, under 50 and a hook. And if you want to see which one of these free plays on this video that I actually like the best, you may want to think about signing up for my college football tier membership package on my premium site. Jacksonville State -14, over 48.5. TCU -16, under 49. Oregon -24, under 52. Syracuse +6.5, over 60. Louisville -7, over 57. Purdue +13, under 47. Boston College +3.5, over 50 and a hook. Wake Forest +5, over 55.5. Pitt Panthers -3 over 64 and a hook. Texas A&M -1.5 under 49. UMass +17.5 under 44. UCLA +29 under 44.5. Navy -8.5 over 35. Tulsa +10 under 50 and a hook. Tulane -14 over 55. Ball State +9 under 56.5. Indiana -13.5 under 42. Marshall -2.5 under 59. South Carolina +9 under 53.5. Bowling Green -15 under 52. Charlotte +9 over 46. Ohio State -20.5 over 44. Auburn +24 over 54.5. UConn -16.5 over 51. Toledo -6.5 under 44. Stanford +9.5 over 50. Rutgers +7 over 41. West Virginia +4.5 over 65 and a hook. Alabama -23.5 over 56. Oregon State -13.5 over 48. Louisiana -14 over 57.5. James Madison -17 under 49. South Alabama -3.5 over 62 and a hook. Boise State -26.5 over 66. Coastal -5 over 55. Clemson -14 over 47. Arkansas +14 under 60. Washington Huskies -2.5 under 41. Baylor +14.5 under 46. Minnesota +9 under 52. San Jose State -7 over 48. Florida Gators +3 over 61.5. South Dakota State, San Diego State -3 under 46. Duke +8 under 53.5. Arizona State -2.5 under 50 and a hook. Cal Golden Bears +11.5 under 55. Give me Texas Tech +6 over 63.5. And with that, folks, that is going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium site. Now, if you do end up getting a membership here today on my premium page, just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. As an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame, absolutely free. They're going to be included with your membership. That's why I always tell folks that Gold Club package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. It gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you also get access to my exclusive Gold Club video each and every day during that time frame, at least most days. There's certain days we can't produce it, like because there's an emergency, but most days, and that exclusive Gold Club video, that is included with your Gold Club membership. Hey guys, real quick, we're hitting at 61% in our last 24 college football tier package plays. That's dating back to last season. So, in the long run, pretty sustained success in that package. So once again, you may want to think about signing up for that membership. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. I love producing this video. I love being on here and just kind of cutting it up with you. It's a longer format, very long format, but it's something I look forward to every Monday. So great to see you guys. I really appreciate you, tuning into the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that, folks, happy Monday to you. Happy week 6 to you in college football. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium site.